Past players, past legends, past legends.
We're privileged to have on the line today Tim May, former South Australian off-spinner, 24 test matches, 75 wickets, average of 34, 439 first-class wickets, average of 35. Of course, that famous 42 not out in the test match here against West Indies in 92-93, where he also took 5 for 9. Importantly, a member of the South Australian winning Sheffield Shield side in 96-97. Welcome aboard, Maisie.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for joining us, mate. Like we do with most of our guests, we'd like to sort of find out where your cricketing began, and obviously growing up in South Australia here, you started out at Burnside Primary and then ended up at Prince Alfred. Was there a little bit of cricket involved there?
Look, as a kid growing up, I was just like any other sort of, Australian kid. Played a bit of cricket and then football in the winter or whatever. I wasn't very good at football. I was pretty scared. But I just sort of, played, with my mates and all that sort of stuff. I don't think we actually had a team at Burnside Demonstration School, but then I went to Prince Alfred when I was in grade 6, and then I was just basically the normal progression of the cricketer through the ranks, from school to club and then state, and then I was fortunate enough for the selectors to have a brain fade and then pick me for a few tests. So that's been my journey.
That probably now makes a bit more sense, Maisie, because I can't remember you at Burnside. Now, you're 2 years older. And then, of course, myself at Burnside, lucky enough to have Gavin Jarman there then, so Barry coached. So that probably explained why we had a side and all that side of things. So, yeah, where probably cricket wasn't superly organised at Burnside before that. So, yeah. So, Tim, yep, go on. So there's some... Go on. So, then at Prince's, go through your journey a bit at Prince's, mate.
Well, Prince's, I just, I played in grade 6. I was in the primary aid side or something. And then I went to, I don't know what they call it, from year 8 to 12. And just played, I think I played in the under-13s. And I think I was in the under-14s when I got selected in the first 11. And I just loved my cricket at Prince's. The oval was magnificent. Yeah. And you also, like the intercollegiate games we used to play against St. Peter's, I still rate them really highly in what I've achieved in cricket.
Yep.
I just love my time at Prince Alfred College. It's a wonderful school. It's got a cricketing tradition. There's countless players that have played for Australia that have come from that great school. And my parents, my folks, they sacrificed a significant amount of their life so their son could go to this wonderful school. And nothing that I've ever achieved would have been possible without my parents.
Oh, fair call.
Yeah, no, I love that, Mosey.
Obviously, playing cricket for the school was a big thing, but I have to digress just a little bit here. Footy was also on the radar as far as Nord goes.
Yeah, when I played in the first 18 at Prince Alfred College, and I think I played on the wing, and then I played up forward for a while. But when I left, I had a really good mate called Jack Gallagher, who's a famous football name in South Australia. And Jack dragged me out to the Nord under-17s, and I thoroughly enjoyed that experience. But it didn't last too long. I think in the second game I played, and they were playing me at centre-half forward. That's how poor we were in those days. But I wrecked my knee. And that was the last game of football I ever played.
So it's all Gallagher's fault, all your injury problems over the years, Maisie.
I'm sorry, I missed that, mate.
It's all Gag's fault for your injury problems over the years.
Well, it was certainly John's fault because I I remember leading to the space where we're supposed to kick it, and the silly bugger kicked it way over my head. So I tried to turn around, and there was a pack coming towards me, and I just, my knee just got caught in the car crash that came my way, and I just knew straight away that I'd done something pretty ordinary to it. So anyway, that's and that's sort of every year or whatever. I have to have my knee cleaned out after that. So it was a minor pain in the ass, but I don't regret playing for Nord at all. In fact, you know how much I love the Nord Football Club.
Yes,
so
you are.
me pulling on number 5 for the Nord under-17s really was a highlight for me.
No, don't worry. Pete's a Nord man as well,
Absolutely.
mate. I wouldn't do it with anyone else other than a Nord man, mate. Of course, you also had some amusing times with Gags, with Jack Gallagher. Tell everyone about out there about your the famous possum pages side of things, Tim.
Oh, good Lord. Look, we were university students at this stage, and we decided to have a bit of fun with the possum pages, and we just made up jokes, sort of riddles and all that sort of stuff that they include, poems, and we post them into the Sunday Mail, because the possum pages used to be a lift out in the middle, and it used to come out on Saturday night, and the boys would race to the news agency, on a Saturday night, see if we made the paper, and we actually got a lot of our stuff published, which gave us a great deal of mirth. And in the end, we got enough possum points to receive a bicycle for an 8-year-old, because our little character kept on saying he was 8 years of age. So at that stage, the gig was up. So there's no way any of us were going to go down and claim this bike. So there's a bike somewhere at the Sunday Mail that's just sitting there waiting for this little character to pick up.
You'll get around to it one day, the character,
Yeah.
That is a great story.
And is there one thing too, that it turns out by fluke that you scored before me at Kensington on that scoreboard down by the far end, Ford Oval end at Parkinson, Tim.
That's correct. I was in the corner from Parkinson Oval, and Parkinson Oval and the Kensington District Cricket Club soon became my life. And there is no better club in Australia than Kensington. And unfortunately, right now I'm experiencing a bit of forgetfulness, so you might have to remind me what I was talking about.
No,
Unfortunately,
that's fine, Maisie.
this happens.
We will get to that.
Treatment I've got.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. No. We will get to that side of it, but yeah, no, don't worry. You know me. I'll sort of plug any gaps there. That's fine. And go through to your Shield debut. Your Shield debut, Tim. Against New South Wales.
I don't even know what year it was, but
84, 85.
Okay. So what was I then? 23. I made the state squad when I was in the under-19s, and I got the impression that they're pretty keen to throw me to the wolves pretty early. But then fate stepped in, and I wrecked my knee. I did something else. And I got my finger in the grand final that we played against Salisbury. Wayne Pryor Fang hit me on my spinning finger, and it sort of shattered the knuckle. That kept me out. It kept me out for about 12 months. I think I played one game for the whole year for Kensington, and that was actually in the B grade final, where I didn't really perform very well with the ball, but I think I made 90-something or something, which gave us a chance, but we lost, I think. Or did we win? I don't know.
No, that's fine. Of course, one of my favourite photos is you actually from an Adelaide University C-grade premiership side. That photo's still up at Uni Oval with you strategically placing the cricket bats too, Tim. So that famous photo.
Yeah.
Go through to your Test debut against New Zealand, mate.
Yeah, the Test debut was against New Zealand. Yeah. I remember. I think I did. I played. I got selected for the Australian team for the 87 World Cup.
Yeah. Sorry, we should carry that. Obviously. Yep.
Yeah, and I think I proved that I could handle that international arena. And when we returned to Australia, they picked the first Test side, and I was fortunate enough to be in it. And even more fortunate that my debut was at the beautiful Adelaide Oval. And there's nothing that really stands out about the game apart from some like Andrew Jones made about 156.
Yeah.
He was out about when he was 2, I think, in the first over of the bowl. Got him caught in place, but the umpire didn't agree with him.
Yep.
But Andrew afterwards came up to me and said, "Yeah, man, I hit it." So and at the end, it doesn't matter what grade of cricket you're playing, what level. It's just the same game, only you've got some better players around you.
Yeah.
So it's no great stress. It was exciting, rewarding, just loved it.
What about playing in the World Cup? The winning World Cup must have been a huge buzz. Playing under Alan Border, of course, Border getting out with the reverse sweep shot, and and that the Iceman in Steve Waugh in that whole one-day series being the closing bowling. It must have been a huge thrill to play on that side too, and sort of like the birth of the renaissance of Australian cricket, really, under Alan Border.
Yeah, well, I think you have to say Alan Border and Bob Simpson.
Yep.
Bob Simpson introduced discipline, hard work, and the like would produce records. And in those days, you can't. The bats weren't as big or whatever. You couldn't hit as many sixes and fours and all that sort of stuff. Shit, I've got a brain fade.
No, that's all right, mate. Yeah, and we just got up so we beat England in the final. Just, of course, the set. There was.
The World Cup.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm back on track.
Yep, you're right, mate.
Look, and when we went over there, all the press was saying this is the worst Australian side they've ever seen. They also said that about the 1989 Ashes team. But and that sort of you don't really need too much more incentive to win a World Cup, but that provided us with a little extra determination, and we just kept on winning. Simple as that. Probably the hardest game we had to play, apart from the final, was the semi-final in Pakistan.
Yeah.
When Imran Khan was at his peak, and courtesy Steve Waugh, I think the last over was playing. He was facing a guy called Jaffa, I think his name was.
Yes. Yep.
And I think Stephen took him to town and got about 26 runs off the last over of our innings. And, that 22 runs was just so valuable in the end because it was a reasonably tight game in front of a pro-Pakistani crowd. It was a great experience, just an outstanding experience. Loved every minute of it. Loved it.
Almost shades of what happened this year. A little bit.
It was, but they lost a couple of games. I don't think we did.
Yeah. In terms of...
Yeah, but that World Cup victory in earlier or late last year was just wonderful. They've got so much talent in that team, and they've got that mercurial Maxwell, who's just extraordinary. That extraordinary innings he played against
Bangladesh. That was unbelievable. That's still the best. For mine, that's the best one-day gig ever.
I've never seen the likes of that before.
Exactly.
And I really, really hope that at some stage in the future that Maxie gets the opportunity to play Test cricket.
Yeah.
I think, we've seen with that Bazball or whatever, it's okay to be aggressive in Test cricket. And I think he'll just be well suited to that arena.
It's farcical that he has never played he's never played a Test match in Australia. And it's quite ridiculous, really. So I actually feel sorry.
Well, yeah, you can say it's ridiculous, but you have a look at that batting line. It's pretty hard to get in.
Yeah, but there were times, like he made the 100 in India and then he came back and didn't get picked. I thought that was a bit bizarre. So anyway,
okay.
Tim, tell us about your fascination with the film, and it is famous for you, Ferris Bueller.
Now, this is one of my favourite movies too. So
this is Maisie's favourite film. Go for it, Maisie.
Well, it's pretty immature, really, but I love my Ferris. I just find him an adorable little character. And as I speak to you, I've now got my Abe Frowman Sausage King of Chicago T-shirt on. He's never far from me. But, I've watched the movie, I don't know, 30 times, including a special screening at the Beach Luxury Hotel in
Karachi.
Where was it? Karachi.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't done that, but that sounds amazing.
Well, we Stephen Law and I found a video store, and there it was, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So we rented it, went over to the hotel, which we weren't staying at, and they have a little cinema room where people were watching some family thing, and I think we might have had a couple on board, and we just walked in there and said, look, change your plans. Took out our video, put on Ferris, and we watched it with all these Pakistanis who probably couldn't understand a word that was going on, but God, they laughed.
And you always used to leave tickets at the gate for Ferris Bueller, and I think a lot of us benefited from that over the years, Tim.
Yeah, the worst thing about playing cricket, it's not the worst thing, but the little minor hassle is you get inundated by people for tickets to the game and all that sort of stuff, which you're obviously really willing to do, but it comes a bit of a pain in the arse at times. So I just told my mates, say, look, wherever we're playing or whatever, I'll leave 2 tickets to Ferris. Like no one else is going to pick them up apart from my mates. So that continued my whole career. Immature.
Brilliant. Effective.
Well,
but funny.
Yeah.
Probably explains my immaturity right there. Favourite part of the Ferris Bueller movie? I know there's so many. There's so many classic lines.
Wow, there's so many. I love when he talks about isms, and also when he pulls out the clarinet and plays a few terrible tunes and just says, "Hey, no lessons." Those sort of things tickled my fancy. That was pretty funny.
Yep.
But the whole film's a highlight. There's never a dull moment in that movie. It really is one of the greats. John Hughes is the director, and he's a magician in terms of comedies.
Now, with your career for South Australia, and you and I have debated this over the years, and I understand where you come from, because I've always thought you sort of got penalised at having to be the stock bowler, especially on flat Adelaide Oval wickets in the first innings, where a return of 3 for 120 or 40 overs was actually a significant achievement. But geez, you used to ruin your spinning finger, your calluses and all that. Your hand was bloody revolting to look at, and I always thought that hurt you a little bit in terms of your strike rate side of things, with having to bowl, carry South Australia a bit in that way, but also what it did to your hands.
As you said, we've debated this often. There's no doubt that for, I suppose, a significant amount of my career for South Australia, that our bowling lineup wasn't as strong as we probably would have liked.
Yep.
So it just sort of, just as a result of that, and I'm pleased that I'm not trying to be critical of any of the blokes who played for South Australia. They're all wonderful players.
We probably just lack that little bit of depth.
A little bit of strike power as well as a strike power. Like,
So
Fang had been around a bit more, where Fang had those injuries. Then he went to World Series. We had Hoggy a bit there for a while, but then we probably, and then Joel, but that was only short. We just lacked a couple of strike bowler, so it went back to you a lot, block the end up, and let's try and force a shot at the other end a little bit.
Yeah, look, I think that's fair, Malcolm. I would have preferred to bowl less in the first innings of the game.
Yeah.
But because it's something I really haven't talked about much, and because I didn't want people to know, which is probably selfish of me, my busted knuckle that I did back in whenever it was, it's made my knuckle look ridiculous, which actually was great because it formed, the knuckle formed around a cricket ball, so I could grip the ball bloody well.
Yeah. So you just had to carry South Australia a fair bit. There's a couple of games. There's one other game, Tim, because we will get...
No. Now, hey, sorry, guys. I'm sorry if this is... I'm lacking professionalism in this.
No, that's fine, mate.
My brain sort of gets a bit muddled with all these drugs that I'm taking.
Hey, I can edit anything, so it's all good.
Okay, thanks, mate. It was a problem for me. If I bowled, let's say, the 20 overs in the first innings, my finger just swells up, and I couldn't actually, this happened all through my career, I couldn't bend it.
Yeah.
And I'd say, anyway, I went to a hand therapist or whatever, and I'd just have to keep squeezing on this stuff called silly putty, and eventually I'd get back to, 90 degrees with my finger and the knuckle or whatever. And so if I'd bowled extensively in the first innings, I was never going to be that effective, or as effective as I could have been in the second innings, just because I couldn't really get a great deal of spin because my finger was so fat and it wouldn't wrap around the ball properly. So I never really told anyone that because I didn't want it to impact upon selection or otherwise, which is at the end of the day, it's pretty selfish of me. But these are the things you deal with. Life's not hard. It's full of hurdles, and that was just a little tiny hurdle.
I want to bring up one other game, Tim, which probably doesn't get any coverage really. Purely, I was actually there with Tony Foster. He's in hospital as well as we speak. All the best to TF well. Yep. So with TF and Jeff Wilson, a couple of them, Spog Raymond at a one-day game against Tasmania at Footy Park, Pleurisy Park, and you took 4 for 9, and you did look like you were going to get a wicket every single ball as well.
That was a spinner's dream, that wicket. I think it was a drop-in or something like that. Quite frankly, if you're worth a pinch of salt, you could have got wickets out there. So again, just fortunate with the conditions, and I just happened to be on that day.
We may have been about half the crowd down at Footy Park that day as well.
For my recollection, it was bloody cold.
It was freezing. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming down and watching, mate. Belatedly.
Yeah. I actually do remember too. This might be only. I remember sitting with you for a while at the 81-82 game when we won the Shield, which wasn't technically the final, but when we had to defeat Victoria to win the Shield. And I did gather, you were rapt that South Australia were doing well and that, but I did get a bit that day that there was a little bit of what if, and geez, I want to be a part of this in the future, which was obviously fair enough. Yeah. So, but I remember sitting with you for a while at that. Yeah, bloody oath it is. So
it's just natural. Like you want to play the highest level that you possibly can, and in those days, Shield cricket was followed a little bit more. than it is now in terms of active spectators. Right, it still has a passive interest through eyeballs and all that sort of stuff. Oh God, it's happened again.
Take your time. That's fine.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're right, Maisie. Maisie, we will get to that at the end, what you're going through and that side of things. Don't worry. Okay. I was at a Shield game last year where I called out to Jake Lehman at the lunch break because he was on 40-odd, 48. Make sure you acknowledge every single person individually. And I did it behind the glass at the Bodyline bar, and he was looking around trying to find the voice, and he said, I knew it was bloody you, but I couldn't find you. And I said, that was actually an achievement considering there was 35 of us there, at Adelaide Oval. So,
good on you.
Just on the Sheffield Shield, are you a little bit disappointed that it has sort of turned into a bit of a, the spectators aren't rolling up to games like they used to?
I'm disappointed our test players don't play in it anymore. It's more that for me, look, I've got a beef where they charge $10 to get in and $17 to park your car, so they've effectively priced pensioners out of it, which I just really makes me angry on the mental health side of things and all that. Well, I think it's been dumb, but it's more the fact that nowadays test players never play Shield games anymore. When we played New South Wales, and you played a full strength New South Wales side, as Dizzy and Tim have said over the times, that was stronger than playing a test match. So you were really tested. Where, of course, nowadays that never happens. Yeah. And that's my real beef now, where it's been relegated because of the Big Bash. It's a bit at the start of the year, and then we'll tack it on at the end almost as an afterthought, and it's just lost its pride of place in the cricket calendar where it was,
I was heading with it,
and it was. Shield cricket was huge. And, it's more where it's been relegated now, where the Big Bash has got all its priority, where the priority is on the dollar, not on the good of the game. And, with India's influence and all that, that's another whole topic in itself. But that's a fair bit of frustration there, as you can probably test him, knowing what a cricket sports nut I am. And I'm sure your feelings on that are probably reasonably similar.
That's the longest question I've ever been asked.
Well, so what wasn't a question? It was probably more of a statement. Yeah. So, sorry about that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that. I was being kind.
Yeah.
No, Shield, look, let's just step back and see what is Shield cricket. And whilst it's, players representing their state and they get a great deal of thrill out of it, it's the nursery for Test cricket.
Yeah.
And accordingly, it will always be strong. It will need to be subsidised heavily through Cricket Australia. I'll get this in a second, boys.
No, you're right, mate.
Help me.
Oh, let's go.
If I pause, just repeat the question.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or just tell me what I was talking about.
Yep. So just with Shield cricket, where it's at, and look, I do want to get to the Shield final too, and obviously what a great game that was. But let's also remember in that Shield final, Gilchrist played one of the most extraordinary innings, and every one of us who was there. So, look, I think the Shield nuts, and let's be honest, there aren't a huge number of absolute Shield morons like myself, around, knew that, hey, shit, this guy is special, and geez, didn't he show it in that game?
It's very hard to hear that. It was very hard to hear that question.
Just saying Gilchrist's innings in that game, he really announced himself, where you went, fuck, this guy is a superstar.
Yeah. I thought I had his measure. I think we played him earlier on in the year at the Wacker, and it was one of the very few times that I actually worked out how to bowl at the Wacker. And I think I got him in both innings. And so coming here, I thought, Adelaide Oval will spin a bit. I'll be pretty cool. Probably spin more than the Wacker was that day.
Yep.
But it didn't. That plan got changed pretty quickly, as he literally belted the daylights out of me. And no matter how I tried to vary or whatever, he just hit through the line or hoiked me over cow corner. And, I wasn't the only one that suffered.
No,
Everyone else
Macca
as
suffered
well.
a fair bit that day as well. Yeah, which we've had Macca as a previous.
Yeah, so he should.
We've had Macca as a previous guest on the show, and yes, he did talk about that, and he did talk about the celebrations afterwards, where a certain TBA may have led him astray just a tad that week, considering he had a district final on the Saturday, and you wouldn't let him leave the famous planet, etc., and all that before the game, mate. Kept him down there.
I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, look, I at that stage realised that perhaps my time was up as a first-class cricketer. So, I probably over-celebrated that fact. A reasonably humorous story was, I don't know how many days on the piss we had. Again, reasonably immature, irresponsible, but we had something to celebrate. And I got on the plane. I was going over to the US after about 5 days of celebration to see my future wife. And I sat down in the seat on the plane, and I was like beetroot red, sweating and shaking just shaking all over. And I sat down, and the guy sat next to me. He said, "Jeez, you look like you've had 5 days on the piss." And I just looked at him and said, "Correct."
Yeah. Go back to we will go through a bit of Nord stuff. Obviously, as a Nord kid, you're a big Nord man, like Pete, myself, and you may have had the odd beer or two at the Redbacks Club, and the 75 grand final, and all through that, you've spent a fair bit of time, with the Gallaghers, Fozzie, Scans, Neegs, etc. over the time. So, yeah, go for it, Maisie. There.
Yeah, look, I had a lot of great mates that played, and the Norwood football team they were my heroes. I just loved them. And in those days, and I don't know if it still continues, but there's annual Kensington.
No, unfortunately, it doesn't.
Club game.
Yeah.
And they were just wonderful.
Oh, great!
I just loved meeting these guys, and I made lifelong friends from that. And back to having a couple of beers at the Redbacks Club or whatever, my Saturdays were just wonderful. Me and a few mates would book a table for the members' lunch prior to the game, have a couple of bevies, walk under the scoreboard, have a couple more beverages, and and root hard for the Norwood Football Club. There was plenty of laughs out in the mound, and everyone sort of, from match to match, where everyone's going to be sitting or standing and all that sort of stuff, and you just become mates with everybody in the crowd, and it was a wonderful time. I just loved every minute of the Norwood Football Club.
Yeah, a couple of funny ones here, Pete. A couple of personal things with Tim. So lined up when Tim Hatt was, one of the owners, and that with the players bar,
yes,
and that. So lined up to get in for New Year's Eve, and Tim's walked up and said to Jeff Wilson and himself and Emma, follow me, we'll go in the back way. And he said to Jeff, geez, Malcolm's going all right, with his girlfriend there. And Jeff replied, no, they're married. And Maisie's gone, Jesus, there's hope for every bloke in the world yet. He's batting well above his weight. Now, that was fair. I can't argue with that whatsoever, Maisie. And another point, I won tickets for a Steve Waugh book launch after 95 tour of the West Indies. So it was at Players, and let's be honest, I was easily the oldest person amongst the people, mainly young kids side of things. And I've gone to Steve Waugh. Look, I've only got one problem with your book. You didn't dedicate it to Bob Newell. And he's yelled out, hey, Maisie, this guy knows Bob Newell. And you were working down the other end of the bar, and you've just looked up and gone, yeah, he's one of the ringleaders, and just put your head down, kept doing whatever you're doing. And so Steve Waugh's just started talking to me, and the other kids who just got this vacant look on his face because Steve Waugh just wanted to talk about Bob Newell then. Yep. So that was a yet again uni footy club and Bob Newell delivering, and of course you as you said, one of your great achievements was featuring on the Spin Triplets banner, the Shane Warne, Tim May, and Bob Neal Spin Triplets banner from David Gordon was where you very much enjoyed that banner and pissed yourself laughing at Adelaide Oval when Gordo put it up, mate.
It was bloody funny. It gave a great deal of mirth to my fellow teammates as well. Who actually made that sign?
Yeah,
Was that you? Or?
No, that was David Gordon. Gordo was generally our artist and link behind it, and Triple M may have had a competition. No, SAFM it was may have had a competition at one stage of the best banners at the footy.
Yep.
So this was after the Escobar had scored the own goal and had been shot in Colombia, and so Gordo put up a banner "Corns for Colombia" with a gun on it, and the guy pissed himself laughing and goes, "That's easily the best, but it can't win, boys." And yeah, we're all in on that. And yeah, so free OJ jail corns, and yeah, it became a bit of a. And Graham, to his credit, laughs about it now. He didn't sort of laugh about it back then.
Can I just expand a little bit? And there's one part of my cricketing career that I haven't touched on, and it was the Adelaide University Cricket Club. And when I first got out of school, when I went to university, in those days, if you went to university, you had to play for university. So I had to leave Kingston and play for the University Cricket Club, which at the time I wasn't that happy about. But I cannot tell you how much fun I had at that club.
Yeah.
There's guys that were just absolutely geniuses, which was, fun to pick their brains. But, God, they were funny. They had this wonderful sense of humour. The whole club did. And my time at Adelaide University, and whilst it may not have helped my cricket, was just full of joy. I just loved every second there. And it's really great to see that the Adelaide University is now a strong cricket club in the Premier Cricket League, or whatever you call it over here now. Yep. But they were the great days. Great days.
And it was a link between the cricket and footy club back then. And, of course, Fred Block, being the leader of the footy club, was also involved and played cricket for uni. So he was always the link, as he was the link with absolutely everything. And, yeah, it was some great times there with both clubs sort of combined in that.
A little known fact is that Fred's wife, Maida, used to be the tea lady at Price Waterhouse where I worked.
Yes, that's right.
And a better person, I think you really struggle to find a better person than Maida, which, you can understand why Fred married her. She is a wonderful human, and she's a great one, and I hope that she's okay now that
I was going to touch
Fred's departed us.
Yeah, I was going to give Maida a ring and all that, and so I will give her a ring and say that you've wished her all the best and all that side of things as well.
Please,
so I appreciate it for that. Yeah. So
no worries, mate.
Tim, so you studied a Bachelor of Economics and then qualified as the CBA as a Chartered Accountant. And then you were the inaugural CEO of the Australian Cricket Association. Go through that side of things, Tim.
You bobbled out there, mate.
So you went
a little bit. Were you talking about the...
Yeah, the CEO. So you were the inaugural CEO. Yeah, the CEO. What the role entailed and all that side of things.
Look, when I was appointed, I wasn't really appointed CEO as such. It was, hey, form a player association. Let's see what we can do.
Yep.
So I think it was back in February 1997. Does that
96
make sense?
When you stopped playing, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I moved to Melbourne because my wife got a very handy job offer over there.
So you then established the Players Association with the aim at just getting a more equitable share. Yep.
Yeah, and we certainly had a battle like Cricket Australia, and it doesn't matter whether it's Cricket Australia or any other sport in the world. They typically tried to resist player associations, break them down, divide, conquer, all that sort of stuff. But in those days, and still these days, we were blessed with wonderful blokes playing for the Australian team who just hung tough in the face of threats from Cricket Australia, or ACB as it was in those days, and a general, I don't know how you say it, sort of a general distaste from the public that the players wanted to get more or a more equitable share of the game's revenues. And that it certainly took its toll on the blokes, but some guy was struggling, was thinking, look, I don't want to be part of this or whatever, but there were always, a collection of blokes would get down, sit down, explain to them what the situation was, and in many ways it was a now or never exercise, and we were just fortunate enough that we hung in there so long, because, we were an office of one, or probably, let's make it two.
Yep.
It was me and James Erskine, who from Sports and Entertainment Limited, who provided us with the expertise that we needed to deliver a decent proposals to the cricket board. Shit. This is so frustrating. It must be frustrating for you guys.
No,
Sorry.
you're fine. You're fine, mate. But you're rewarding. It was as you said, it was a long, frustrating but rewarding journey, which you continued for a number of years, even after you moved to Texas, mate.
Yeah. Well, the important thing for us was not to get an absolute amount, but instead get a proportion of the revenues, because we were aware that the television rights within India, and that's where the importance was. The television rights there were going through the roof, as there was competitors, a significant amount of competitors for the market over there.
No, that's all right. So how, in terms of India, with how much they sort of dominate the game economically and that, what can we do, what can world cricket do to try and get it a bit fairer, and so you don't have the case of like the Test tour coming up, the South African players playing 2020 back home instead of playing in New Zealand? That's, the desperately needed sort of rescue of Test cricket needs to happen.
Yeah, look, I think Test cricket's going extremely well in Australia, England, and India. But outside of that, Test matches make those boards lose money.
Yeah.
And there are a significant number of boards cricket boards out there that are pretty much flat broke.
Yeah.
So for them to be able to entice players to stay loyal to the international scene, they have to offer some sort of remuneration that, whilst it's very, very difficult to offer the same amount of monies that these T20 leagues provide.
It just still needs to be a bit. It just needs to be a bit more even.
Look, and there's a couple of things you can do, and they're both very, very difficult. The first one is, cricket. The Indian Cricket Board is everyone's biggest customer, so everyone is very respectful of that and aware of that, and they count on India coming to your cricket board or to your country to gain all these television rights. So India's really, really important. And I think they do a wonderful job at promoting cricket over there. I think they're very, very clever. But the other boards need to rally together and just stand up to the BCCI.
Yeah.
Whilst that sounds easy, it's not, because they always feel threatened about the scheduling of games and the amount of games that they get to play against India, which is everyone's payday. So they need to band together, and probably their first exercise they need to do is just have a look at the financial model that they have for ICC revenues derived from the ICC events. It's just way out of whack, and the poor countries just seem to be getting lesser and lesser proportion of the revenues. So, that needs to change. And change is difficult, especially when you're dealing with the BCCI, because everything in their backyard is wonderful. And perhaps they just don't appreciate, the strain that a lot of boards are under. So if the ICC can, I won't call it fun cricket, but increase the distributions, you can tag those grants or whatever you like, loans, whatever you want to call them, you can tag them with the fact that they must be sent on Test cricket and the remuneration of players. That'll give them a far better chance of retaining their players in the international scene rather than go off to the T20. The situation, I think the ideal situation from my perspective is, and I think you'll find this will grow more and more, is that players will, start off and they want to play international cricket and Test cricket because still to this day, that's the pinnacle for all players across the world. All of them. So, it's the pinnacle, Tim. Think it through. It's the pinnacle.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find that, that ambition will ensure that the players in the early part of their career, early to mid part of their career, is that they'll try to, fulfil their ambition. And then once they get in a significant amount of time playing representative cricket, it's almost like a retirement plan, going around and playing T20 tournaments where they pay you a great deal of money for not a great deal of work. And I'd like to see that as basically a standard rule or a standard mode. And then international cricket will be exactly what it's supposed to be, and Test cricket will be exactly what it's supposed to be, and that's a test.
Yeah.
So, hopefully that's the way it pans out. Yeah. It bothers me quite a bit that the international game may be in danger, but in Australia it's safe. This country is it's full of wonderful people who love supporting their country, and as a country, we're a small little country, but my God, we pack a punch.
Yeah.
So I don't see it for Test cricket in Australia as long as they've got someone to play against, which, at the end of the day, if it's just the other countries don't want to play any cricket, well, okay, that's fine. But and then you've just basically got a trifecta of teams, being India, Australia and England, and a lot of people will say, they just keep on playing the same people all the time. And, yeah, that's true, and you might miss out on a few, or a number of players that are, who have outstanding records, but unfortunately play for the countries that don't have Test cricket. Yeah. So, and even if there's only three teams, and if it's India, England and Australia, they're typically always very strong, great contests. Like, there's just so much to love about those competitions.
No, that's true.
I think people will appreciate going to games where, and I think the essence of sport is going, as from a spectator's point of view, is going to a game not knowing who's going to win.
Yeah, that's.
At the moment, we have these, we have some various bilateral arrangements where you basically know the result before the game started. It's not the end of the world if a couple of countries don't want to play Test cricket. To me, it just makes it easier.
Yeah,
to have,
I understand where you're coming
competitive, great series.
Some certainly thought. In agree, we're all in agreement here. Some thought-provoking comments there, but have to also ask about the tsunami appeal game. Obviously, talking about cricketing bodies banding together and playing for a cause. I hear on the grapevine that was your little brainchild.
Yeah, it was. And tragedies happen like that. You really sit down and think how lucky you are. Sometimes you don't feel lucky. but then you just got to, just cast your mind to other people. And there's always someone that's worse off. And the tragedies of the tsunami were significant. And, as sporting people who you had a connection to various countries and all that sort of stuff, it was the very least we could do. So I approached Cricket Australia and said, look, we can raise a bunch of money here that will be helpful for, and I think the majority of it went to Sri Lanka, I think.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But, I think we raised over $17 million, and every player across the world who was invited to play, and we were very fortunate there wasn't much cricket on at that stage, international cricket. So you had the greats playing, and I don't know if you went to that, but it was a wonderful occasion. Like typically those sort of games, where it's not real cricket, it's more about entertaining, are pretty dull and crappy.
Yeah, I agree with you. They sort of lose its oomph pretty quick, but that game didn't.
It's supposed to be a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And that game was huge.
Yeah.
It was so much. It was so much fun, and whilst it was my brainchild, you got to dip your lid to Cricket Australia and Channel 9, who just got behind it. And Cricket Australia provided all the resources. The MCG provided all their resources free of charge. Channel 9, they jumped on board, and that was really significant because we could beam that game all over the world, which obviously brings in greater revenue. So, whilst it was my brainchild, and it annoys me when I see that, I did all the work for this. No, I had an idea, and the other people did the work. And, we were very, very fortunate it all came together, and it was a wonderful occasion.
Righto, Tim. Time for a couple of serious ones in terms of, like myself, you finally stopped bullshitting yourself and admitted you had a problem with the booze and took some matters in control yourself. Like, I'm 11 years now, as I've said previously, as a joke, apologies to the pubs and clubs I've driven bankrupt in that time through not drinking. But, just a matter of just being honest to yourself there, Tim, and the changes and your life now with your, with your wife and your grandchildren and along those side of things, Tim.
Okay, mate. Look, as a, and I call myself an addict, it's a difficult exercise, stopping that addiction. I was just fortunate enough that I hit rock bottom.
Yep.
That's really, really important.
Yeah.
It's not until you hit rock bottom that you'll start emerging. And the first, this is part of the 12 steps of rehabilitation. Yep. The first step is to admit you got a problem.
Yes.
And the second step is that you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And it was at that point where I thought, I could give up the drink by myself, and I realised I couldn't, and I needed, a helping hand. And I checked myself in. I didn't tell my wife, but I actually don't say that. I checked myself into a wonderful facility called La Hacienda in the hill country of Texas. It's gorgeous up there. It's a great environment, rivers and everything. And I had the best 30 days of my life there. It was fascinating. It was scary.
Yeah.
But most of all, it was just rewarding. And I can recall that there's a prayer, and unfortunately I can't remember the prayer. It's on page 53, I think, of the big book. Yep. There's a prayer that you're encouraged to say at night because it's very spiritual, not religious, spiritual, the 12 steps. And there's a prayer that you keep saying at night to try to connect to God, whatever your God is. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night where everything just went white and then disappeared. And for me, that was, A, bloody weird, but B, a sign that I wasn't alone. And so I went to rehab. And I approached it rather than, getting myself better, which is obviously a byproduct of what I wanted to do. It was to really get into the stuff such that when I got out, I was able to be a good sponsor for any bloke who's having addiction issues. And so I sort of did a couple of extra yards. I'm not trying to be big-headed or whatever, but I wanted to do that because I thought, it's the right thing to do, and B, I have forgotten, my friends. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Just where you were helping people with addiction problems, and you jumped on board, and you had a couple of scary incidents there with that as well, Tim, where there was shotguns fired and just missed. So it was things happened with that when you jumped aboard and tried to help others as well.
Well, I think that's important.
Yeah.
And don't think I'm like one of these American sportsmen who go, thank God, and all that sort of stuff. I like to play pretty low profile on that. But, I'm a believer. And if you asked me 4 years ago, do you believe there's something out there that presides over all of this, I would have thought you're a nutcase.
Yeah.
But 5 days into rehab, it just came upon me that I was never going to drink again. It's quite eerie, this spiritual journey, and it gives you so much strength. And, subsequent to that, I'll put it in loose terms, sponsored a couple of the young drug-addicted guys who, stuff, it's so sad. Like, everyone sees these guys on meth or cocaine or fentanyl, which is awful drug. The public sees, fuck.
Yeah, they see
God,
it.
this is frustrating.
No, that's fine.
Frustrating to you.
No, that's okay. They see
what was
that.
I saying? What was I saying? It was an important thing I was going to say.
About kids and that on those drugs, and the public see it. And they just virtually blame that kid. Yeah, go for it. Keep going.
Yeah, look, and so I've taken a couple under my wing, or a few under my wing. Unfortunately, we lost one of them, whose heart just packed in.
Yeah.
But the great thing is it's beneficial to both of you. Not just the bloke that you're sponsoring, but it also keeps you honest. Like, you're basically, in want a better expression, their hero. And if they see you falling off, well, then they've got no chance. So there's an ultimate responsibility for you to lead, practice what you preach.
Yeah, I like that.
And it gives the kids the best. It gives the kids the best chance of succeeding. And one of my guys that I look after is a wonderful bloke. He's about 32. He used to be the number one ranked soccer player coming out of college. And he had an awful experience where he found his father dead with a needle in his arm on the eve of the championship game for Sacramento, who he played for, Sacramento University. And he took to me, I took to him, and he's got so much to offer. He's brilliant. He's almost genius-like in his brain. And he had racked up 30 visits to rehabs, and he still couldn't kick it. And I'm so happy to say that this guy's now over 2 years sober. He's back working. He's got his life back. He had a few dramas with possession charges and all that sort of stuff, and the majority of them have been dropped. He needs to still address them going forward, but he's in such a good state of mind. He's going to be okay. And he's a wonderful bloke, and I just can't tell you how rewarding that is, and selfishly, from my perspective. But I love this kid. I love the other kids I look after. They're wonderful. They start. The progression to meth is just ugly, and it's irresponsible.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that I found in rehab were guys who were injured playing sport or whatever, and they're put on these drugs called OxyContin, I think it's called, which is, you know, a painkiller, but it's highly addictive. Yeah. And it was marketed as not addictive. Yeah. And there's current litigation over the States about all of this. So through no fault of their own, they get addicted because the doctor's prescribing it. They get addicted to the drug, and then the resistance of the body sort of fights up against it, and the next thing you know, to get that same sort of ease and the ease of pain and all that sort of stuff, they go for things stronger, and you know, it's just a gradual. It's a graduation, and you know, it's a really slippery slope from there. Yeah. So it really changed my perception of people who have a problem with drugs.
Yeah,
they're all good. They're all good kids, and just through the pure fraudulent activities of this big pharma company, it's playing. There's 100,000 people a year die in the United States of drug overdoses or complications from using drugs. Okay, huge, isn't it? It's a war. It really is a war.
Yeah, that's probably a good way of putting it.
And so, you know, when you see someone who's drug addicted or whatever, don't judge. As Ted Lasso says, don't judge, be curious.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that's just a terrific mantra.
Yeah, no, that's superb. Now, Tim, you've been living over in Texas now for a fair while with Katie and with your children over there. Yeah. And, geez, it makes me feel old where I see photos of Ben with kids having, you know, been coaching at Prince's when Ben was there. So that does make me feel ancient. But just, you know, and, of course, your vital other role as being president of the veteran of the Austin Crows Australian Football Club. Go through about your life over there as well, Tim.
Oh, look, initially, when Katie and I got married, she agreed to stay in Australia, and I think we put it down to 7 years. You know, we had a little handshake agreement. Of course, me deviously thinking she's going to fall in love with Australia and we won't have to go back to the States.
Yep.
That didn't pan out that well. She loves Australia, but she loves her friends, family, and all that. And, you know, so in a sense, I was kicking and screaming because I just love Australia. You guys just don't appreciate how much of a wonderful country this is. And so I packed the bags, moved to Austin, and Austin's just a beautiful place. It's wonderful. It's laid back. It's probably the size of Adelaide, but unfortunately growing exponentially at the moment as people realise that New York and Los Angeles, California, or whatever, is a pretty ordinary place to live, just through taxation and things of that perspective.
So in terms of everyone, so...
we're talking about Austin. So it was an easy transition. It's a wonderful transition. You know, today I feel like I've got two homes. I've got the home being Adelaide and Austin. And the people, one of the great things over there, and it sounds a little bit snobby, but we live 500 yards from the Austin Country Club. And whilst that sounds a bit snobby, and, you know, to be honest, there are a couple of snobs out there, but the guys are just wonderful. And, you know, I've formed so many lifelong friendships there that it was going to be difficult for us to leave, and especially leave and come back. And, you know, I'd like to come back, but, you know, when I think about it, we want to be close to our, we would never move if our kids were still in Austin. So, just if they all decide that it's getting a little bit too dangerous in the United States, which I think it is, I'll put a bit of money on at least one of my kids coming back here to put their kids through school.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult to move. But Austin's wonderful. The Austin Country Club, it's like a pub. That's where everyone goes after every day, and it's just dead set beautiful there. There's nothing better than playing around a golf and just sitting out in the patio and, these days having a nice fresh lime and soda. It's a wonderful place. And it's a pity Australia don't have those sorts of facilities, because it's a wonderful community project. It really is. Everybody knows each other. Everybody, if anyone's in trouble, everyone bandies around them. The Americans are very generous. They're all a bit weird, but they're bloody generous.
Yeah.
So, I will travel out here, 6 times a year, see mum and dad, and meet up with my mates and all that sort of stuff. And, that'll keep me satisfied.
Yeah.
But you never know.
And you
never know what happens.
You love coming home to say hello to the traffic lights too, Tim. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually watched the booze bus. I watched the booze bus yesterday out of my hotel window. It was on King William Street.
Yep.
I nearly raced down and got in my car and tried to drive through it because I'm a sober dude.
Yeah. I know what you mean there. I know exactly what you mean there. Don't worry, I have done that, Tim. So yes. Managed to get pulled over 3 times in one night. So that was and that sort of thing. That was quite amusing. Tim, now let's look at the other serious side of it. You are going through a serious health battle at the moment. You do have prostate cancer. You do wish to make the point that as blokes, don't bloody avoid a test. And we're all guilty of it as blokes. We're all, won't be me, it won't be me. We're all sort of bulletproof. And you were okay. And then you didn't go to a test, and you've actually broken the oncology test, looking at an article in the Sydney Herald this morning where you went from 1 to 14.8, where 4 is considered dangerous. So that's quite ridiculous as well, Tim, in terms of the number.
Actually, I think that number's a little bit inflated. It was high, but it wasn't that high. Look, as I said before, life's difficult. The older you get, the more difficult but more rewarding it becomes.
Yeah.
And so, it was back in January, and I was feeling pretty tired all the time. And so I actually went to the doctor to get a testosterone check. And, it came back and the testosterone was fine, but my PSA was, had gone to elevated status. So it was it was a shock. And for some reason, I've always worried about getting cancer. I don't know why. I was always a bit of a worrier. But when I got told, I'm not trying to be a hero here, but it didn't really faze me. Both Katie and I looked at each other as we walked out and said, should we be feeling worse than we are? And I have the greatest support network in my family.
Yep.
Might get emotional here.
Go for it, mate.
My wife, when I married my wife, I remember saying that Katie is the best person I've ever met. As I stand here now, 25 years later, actually I've got no idea how many years.
That's fine.
I can tell you that I underestimated her. Yeah. She is a gem. She's an angel on earth, and so are all my kids, which has shown me huge support through this. And they've made something that could have been really, really hard into something like more of an adventure. That's how I think that's a good word. It's an adventure. Haven't had this before. Little problem. You got to overcome it. Thank God it's prostate cancer and nothing, of elevated, nothing that metastasizes really quickly. Yesterday, you have just bad days and you have your good days, but any healthy person has that.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate with the side effects, which at the moment seem more significant following radiation. But it's a good sign. The body's healing. You know, and before I came out here, I had my scans after my 42 days, I don't know how many days of radiation I had. And they're all gone.
Wow.
And it's not the end of the story.
No.
There's still a bit of a way to go, but it's you know, I'm on the home straight. I've no, you know, all we need to do is just keep it at bay. I'm on, you know, a truckload of drugs or whatever for another 11 months.
Yep.
And whilst, you know, you can hear the frustration in my voice sometimes, it's frustrating, but all my side effects seem to pass very, very quickly. So you don't get down about it because you know it's going to pass. You know you're going to reach that finishing line and then you're going to feel good again. And you just work it out after a period of time of things you do that makes you feel more tired than you already are because you've got no testosterone.
Yep.
And you just work it out. And again, you just got this incredible love from the family and friends.
Yeah.
And it's all very, very manageable. And to be frank, I think it's made me a better bloke.
Yeah, I do get that, Tim. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great way of thinking about it. If we can use some cricket terminology, you're chasing down the 100 or the 10 for, and you're almost there. And I'm going to get there. And you are going to get there, exactly right. So no, that's fantastic.
No doubt in the world.
Yeah, look, we sort of normally close off with, you know, best batsman bowled to or best things, but I actually sort of don't think that's appropriate on this. I think you've closed it superbly in what you're going through. You're fighting like buggery.
Yep.
Great support from Katie and your kids. And look, I love your Facebook posts, and you can almost feel the warmth coming through as you post photos of Poppy with you and things like that. And look, Tim, privileged to have you on board on the interviewing side of things. And look forward to catching up, mate. And all the best.
Mate, same here. Look, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. You know, I've enjoyed it. But the message, and I probably haven't emphasised this enough, is don't be a fool like me. Men, take a PSA test every year.
Yeah.
I skipped one year and it cost me. I felt like an idiot.
Yeah.
I let my family down. I let everyone down by being too scared to go and get a blood test. Like, goodness me. Anyway, I'm beyond that now.
Yeah.
And life is rosy again. Some little frustrations as you would have experienced today.
Yeah.
But as I said, they just pass. And to be honest, I find some of them quite humorous. Like yesterday, I've woken up with just this purple patch on the left-hand side of my face. And, that's just one of the side effects you go through.
Yeah.
And apparently it's got to do with sleeping on your side that puts pressure on your capillaries or something like that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I might sleep on the other side so I look symmetrical tomorrow. But, like I'm in a good place. I love it, and I've loved talking to you guys. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
And as long as we get that message out of blokes, please do your PSA checks. Yeah. I'll be happy. That's the ambition of this interview.
Yeah, no, appreciate it, Tim. Greatly appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Hold on the line too as we finish
nothing.
here. Yeah, no, thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Mate.
Thank you.
Thanks,
hey,
mate.
see you guys.
Thanks, mate.
Have a good one.
Are dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.